let's dive into my preseason takeaways. I'm just going to try and rip through as many things here as possible. I've got 3 buckets for my list: headlines that matter, playing time notes, and then truly sicko stuff in the final bucket here. Let's start with the headlines that matter. Rashawn Slater, Chargers left tackle, is out for the season. Big takeaway. This stinks. This is not good. Rashawn Slater is one of the best left tackles in the NFL. The Chargers, some of the optimism that I had about their offense this year, obviously they have some really interesting skill position players. They've got Justin Herbert, who is a rock star quarterback, top 6 player at the position in real life, a guy that I think really took a step last year in terms of his aggressiveness. You've got Ladd McConkey, who you guys know I love, Amari Hampton, first-round running back, some intriguing receiving options with Keenan Allen now back in the building. Rashawn Slater being out, he is one of the best left tackles in the NFL, okay? Part of my optimism for this offense is that offensive line was going to be better this year, was going to take a step forward with Mekhi Becton at right guard, with Joe Alt at right tackle, taking a step forward in his second season. Now it sounds, look, the Chargers actually have a plan here. They're going to push Joe Alt to left tackle. Trey Pipkins, who is not a great starter, but he has started at right tackle. He's going to step in there. So they have some ability to survive this, but I do think you have to dock them some points as an offensive line overall. Again, Slater is one of the best players at the position. He was just rewarded with a big fat contract extension. So I'm going to have to dive into the ranks here pretty soon. I'm going to be doing a big refresh as soon as I digest all this information that we're about to talk about here today. And there might be some spots where, all right, maybe Amari Hampton he needs to come down a little bit. Maybe Ladd McConkey needs to come down a little bit. And this certainly makes me a little less interested in some of the depth pieces here. So fantasy community never reacts properly to offensive line injuries. I don't want to just yada yada this, but at least the fact that Joe Alt was a top 5 draft pick and played left tackle in college, I think that does give them some insurance there at the very least. Next thing, Jaguars wide receiver / cornerback Travis Hunter played 11 out of 12 snaps with the first team offense in preseason and 0 with the first team defense. He did mix in on some defensive snaps after that. I think this is just confirmation of what we should know at this point, that the Jaguars view Travis Hunter as an offensive first player. Watching the game last night and checking back some of it this morning, it's pretty obvious what kind of role Travis Hunter is going to have. He is rotating in the slot. He's playing. He doesn't really see the field in 2 receiver sets because they have De'Ami Brown there to do that stuff. I don't really think that's going to matter very much. This is mostly an 11 personnel offense. I don't want to go nitty gritty on the 2 receiver thing here. And the reality is, when Travis Hunter's on the field, he's going to be getting the football. So again, this is just more confirmation of what we should already know. Travis Hunter is an offensive first player. I want to get a little higher on Travis Hunter in my rankings. You guys know, if you listened to the show back at the NFL draft, just how special of a receiver prospect I thought this guy was. All the evidence is building that, again, he's going to be an offensive first player. And, you saw a lot of the interesting bells and whistles just in a very, very, very vanilla sort of preseason setting that I think Liam Cohen is going to put in the mix here. So again, I really like Travis Hunter as a prospect. I think the fact that they're pushing him as a wide receiver is great news. There's some guys that I have ahead of him in my rankings that I need to take a look at here, because I want to get Travis Hunter on some teams. I want to be aggressive on this player. I've been aggressive on him since the moment I charted his first 3 games for reception perception. So I want to kind of continue that theme here. Next piece of news, Taj Spears, Titans number 2 running back, has a high ankle sprain. He was carted from the field on Saturday night as well. Tony Pollard really feasted in times last year because Taj Spears was just too banged up to really establish himself as a secondary member in that committee. I think this obviously pushes that potentially back onto our plates here to start the 2025 season. I'm not saying I'm really high on the Titans offense, but I think Cam Ward's going to come in here and really lift this unit. You saw the connection that him and Calvin Ridley have. Ridley is a guy, again, that I have in that same tier as Travis Hunter, and I don't really know which one of those guys I really want to be bullish on, because I like both of them in that range. That's just such an appealing area of the draft at wide receiver. And I think Ridley in some formats might go even a little bit later than that. So I want to take some shots here on Tony Pollard. I want to take some shots here on Calvin Ridley. And Taj Spears, I think, actually is an interesting late round dart throw because he has great contingency value and in like full PPR settings might be a nice pass catcher, but he just has been a little too banged up at this point, and that continues here this preseason. Next one up here, and I hate this, is Jaden Reed is in a boot with some sort of lower body injury. Matt LaFleur said he is hopeful for week 1. Not great. Okay. As I wrote in the draft day blueprint, as Scott and I always talk about, and this is something that Scott Pianowski has hammered in my head over the years, injuries are going to find you during your fantasy football season. You don't got to go looking for them in your draft. I want to get more information on this Jaden Reed injury. I don't want to overreact, but I already had him and Matthew Golden in the same tier because this is an efficient offense. Jordan Love is a good quarterback who's aggressive. Like, he passes the minimum threshold to be interested in pass catchers. So I want to take shots on this offense. And, again, it's an efficiency boost, the way they call plays, the motion, the play action, everything they do from a structural perspective. Tucker Kraft is my guy at tight end, but Jaden Reed is a player I've been really high on as well over the course of his NFL career, actually dating back to his prospect profile. But Matthew Golden's round 1 pick was a really quality zone beater in his collegiate reception perception sample, and a guy that can win the ball in tight coverage as well. He brings a different skill set than Jaden Reed. So I already wanted to draft Matthew Golden. If we continue to not get good injury news on Jaden Reed, I might just, right now, like if I was drafting today, I'd take Matthew Golden ahead of Jaden Reed. I reserve the right to change my mind about that over the course of August because it is August 10th. We are not close to the end of the month. But if I was drafting today, I think I'd rather have Matthew Golden than Jaden Reed. All right, continuing on the injury theme here, Anthony Richardson got banged up in his preseason game on Thursday night. He had a finger dislocation is what he called it. His pinky finger on his throwing hand was a full 90-degree angle there. Not what you want to see. Also, if you haven't seen it, every former quarterback has posted a video about like why this was Anthony Richardson's fault, getting himself blown up there. So, and that is true. I mean, look, from a rules perspective, we don't need to dissect that here. Like I said, every smart former quarterback has put a video up, so you can find that stuff on social media. But this is the story with Anthony Richardson. It's a details issue and it's an injury issue. So I was getting excited about Richardson potentially building momentum in training camp and maybe carrying that into starting week 1. And I'm interested in the Anthony Richardson story, and when he's on the field, he's a viable fantasy option. But he does change the complexion of the offense for the skill position players, the pass catchers, for Jonathan Taylor and the touchdown total. If he's out there, it's a different picture than if Daniel Jones is out there. Now that he's injured, this is once again going to throw a wrench in a quarterback situation that seems very, to use Michael Scott, snip, snap, snip, snap, snip, snap, as in terms of who's going to start here. So continue to monitor that situation. Probably should have had this one a lot higher in the rundown, but Sean McVay on Saturday night told us that Matthew Stafford is going to participate on Monday. He threw more than 60 passes, according to McVay, on Saturday. So look, we've talked about this a lot. This Matthew Stafford situation, it's worrisome right now. It is something to monitor. But again, the reality is it's August 10th. As I said with Scott earlier this week when we talked on the first round show, that, hey, Puka Nacua right now, I've got to dock him down a little bit. On August 5th, it was like, okay, let's be concerned. Let's dock him down a little bit. But if we get to August 25th and Matthew Stafford is participating in practice, it's not a concern. Then I think you can get more excited about Rams stuff. I'm still very much concerned about some of the pass protection and Stafford just lasting through the season, but I feel good that he's about to start. Like, let's see how this week goes, basically. That's kind of where I'm at with this. Last one here, Rachaad White has a groin injury. Don't know the severity of this one, but Bucky Irving, if he takes any sort of like just full pass catching down work away from Rachaad White, I think he's going to look really good at his ADP. He's not somebody that I'm ahead of ADP on, or I'm not like fading him where he goes. He's just kind of fine to me. There was, we do drafts here at the Fantasy Football Expo, the Kings Classic. There was a point where Bucky Irving was on the board and I thought about taking him, ultimately ended up going in a different direction because it is a full PPR format. And, just again, I'm not quite sure about the full pass catching role with some of the screen stuff maybe going away with Liam Cohen out. Josh Grizzard says he wants to push the football down the field more, but then this Rachaad White injury happens, something you might at least want to just that would cause like some slight tweaks in the running back rankings, but it depends on the severity. So keep your eye on that one. Next section, let's talk playing time notes here. A lot of this stuff is going to come from Nathan Junkie of PFF. Does great work. Of course, he's been doing work with Pro Football Focus forever. He shared the in-season snap counts. He writes full reports on this stuff. So this one is pulled directly from one of his articles talking about the Texans wide receivers in this game that the Texans just played in the preseason. Obviously, Nico Collins was not out there, but again, quote, Higgins was consistently playing the X role when he was on the field, while Xavier Hutchinson was the Z receiver. If the plan was for Higgins to play the Z role in the regular season, he presumably would have been used in this role in this game. I think it's a great note from Nathan. I'm not writing that in pen, of course. I got to really dive into the film myself, which I have not done just yet. Yes, that's right. Watching preseason film. It is time to get down into the muck, into the grime, and be doing stuff like that because it's August and we're preparing for the season here. But this is something that's on my radar. Like, I don't know that everybody else is just going to note this. There's probably not a lot of fantasy shows digging into the X and Z receiver details with second round rookies who are like late round flyers, but that's why you come and watch this sort of nonsense with me. So why I think this matters. Number one, I do think that the 3 receiver set to start the year is Nico Collins, Jaden Higgins on the outside, Christian Kirk in the slot. I think Kirk is a guy that can play on the outside in 2 receiver sets. Jalen Noel, one of my favorite prospects in the class this year. I grouped him in the same tier as a guy like Matthew Golden, like a late first rounder, early second type that if a team had taken him in the back of the first round, I would have been totally fine with. I felt very similar about Josh Downs 2 draft classes ago. Those guys literally went at the same exact pick. Josh Downs and then Jalen Noel a couple years later. And you see how Josh Downs has turned out to be a really, really good pro. I think Jalen Noel in time will be a really good pro. I think there's no way to like kind of parse him onto the field right now, but talent does eventually rise to the top here. So won't be surprising to me if he is like a back half guy in the season, or maybe just 2026. That's a guy who's a clear breakout player. But the Jaden Higgins thing is on my radar for 2 reasons. One, I think that Jaden Higgins is a guy who probably shouldn't be playing X receiver. I feel, and I don't think he'll be like exclusively X like Keon Coleman is in Buffalo. I thought those guys were kind of similar as prospects. I think they'd be more maximized as flanker receivers who kick into the slot and be kind of those big jumbo slot receivers. Nico Collins is a tier 1 elite NFL receiver who plays mostly X. If this is true, if Jaden Higgins is going to take, let's call it 50% plus snaps at X receiver in the regular season, and Nathan is right about this, I just think that is going to mean Nico Collins, who has been a full-time X, over 80% of his snaps outside on the line of scrimmage in all of his NFL seasons. If he's going to move around the formation more, take flanker snaps, be off the line of scrimmage, he's going to get more layup targets. He's going to be in motion more. He's going to take like snaps from the backfield. He's going to take snaps from the slot. I'm not saying he's going to go full Puka Nacua with his deployment because Nick Caley does come from that Rams tree. But if he gets like a little bit more of that treatment, if he becomes like a Jamar Chase last year, who was a full-time X receiver in his starting rookie year, to now he's a guy that moves around the formation, got more snaps in motion than ever before in his NFL career last season. It's just going to jump up that fantasy football ceiling, man. He's going to have like wide receiver 1 overall in his range of outcomes. So yeah, I think Higgins is a nice late round flyer, but his deployment also says a lot about Nico Collins. So again, continue to monitor this. We will be talking about it here on the show and why this affects all of the Texans wideouts. Let's stick in the AFC South here for a more straightforward, non-complete Dorco playing time note. Travis Etienne ran every snap with the starters at running back for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Then it was Tank Bigsby who comes on next. Then Basil Tootin, who I thought played pretty well. I also noted this to several folks last night that you could see like Basil Tootin, when he got in that open field when it was time to break a tackle, he was holding on to that football. Okay, he was tight on that thing. He does not want to drop that football, put it on the dirt, put it on the grass. In the preseason, no fumble issues for Tootin. That's on his radar, which is good. He needs to work on the ball security. That was an issue in college, and obviously was a storyline in minicamp as well. Tootin can still rise throughout the course of this season. Like, fantasy is not about figuring out who's going to be on the field in week 1, especially with these rookies. It's about, can they build momentum? Can there start to be a story for later in the year? Right now, I would say that, Bigsby's going to be like an early down banger, and ETN has a lot of access to the passing game. I think you just take your shots on this backfield. I don't think there's one clear answer. It seemed like Tank Bigsby had a lot of momentum in training camp, and I do think early on, as I said, he was way too just counted out in this backfield rotation. He's going to play a big role. So again, take your shots on these. There's not one guy where I'm just like, this is the guy this year. I would just try to get some exposure to all of these backs, because I think at some point, Tootin can rise up here. And if he does, maybe he pushes one of these guys to the side, maybe not. I don't think this is a full settled situation yet. What is settled, again, staying in the AFC South, Tyler Warren, first round pick of the Indianapolis Colts at tight end, played 20 of the Colts' first 20 snaps. There's a math problem in Indianapolis with these pass catchers, which is why I like all these guys, but I haven't been fully aggressive taking any of them. Even my guy, Josh Downs, I did get him in the salary cap draft here, about like 12-ish bucks, I believe. I got Josh Downs for maybe a little bit more than that. It was a long draft. These salary cap drafts in person take for freaking ever, but I'm not going hard to try to get any of these Colts players, because again, it's a math problem, and Tyler Warren being out there, he's going to be part of this math problem as well. I do think maybe I need to bump Tyler Warren up the rankings a little bit. I'm probably a little bit too far behind ADP. It just, again, if it's going to be Richardson, it's an even bigger math problem, because he's going to take dropbacks away because he's going to scramble, and the efficiency is just not going to be there with Daniel Jones, is not going to be there with Anthony Richardson. So Tyler Warren's role is solidified. I still have questions about the offense overall. Samaje Perine, Bengals running back, took third downs and some other clear passing plays with the Bengals first team offense from Chase Brown, according to Nathan Junkie of PFF. Again, Chase Brown, this does not hurt Chase Brown's outlook. Again, Perine, I think, is actually just a snap eater. Okay. He is a guy who's going to play on passing down snaps. He had third downs, like we said here, but he's not going to threaten Chase Brown's rushing work. I mentioned this on Football 301. From week 10 on, Chase Brown had a 74% share of the rushing attempts for the Cincinnati Bengals, which was right up there with Jonathan Taylor for the most in the league. He was also a high-end pass catcher. He basically had Devon Achan's target share from that point on, week 10 on. Maybe that passing work comes down just a touch. Perine gets some little cutesy catches here and there, but Brown still has a first round fantasy back like workload projection who goes in the third round. So he's a guy I really like. I want to get some Chase Brown. I want you guys to draft some Chase Brown. I'm not saying take him in the first round. I'm not saying take him like early in the second round, but still a guy that you should be getting in the third round. Really one of my favorite picks in that third round range. Just want to talk about the Panthers' first team offense here. I think we got to give a bump to Tedo McMillan as well, who had the exact kind of role you would imagine in the preseason week 1. Saw a lot of this game on the big screen at one of the parties here at the Fantasy Football Expo. Number one, McMillan's running the exact routes I want to see from him. A lot of in-breakers, deeper digs, those horizontal breaking routes, some stuff to the sideline as well. And Bryce Young is like, he's like trusting McMillan with these in-breaking anticipatory throws, which, man, they are a really, really good fit together. Also, we can officially say that the 3 receiver set, which we should expect this to be true for the Carolina Panthers, it's McMillan at X, it's Xavier Legette, and then it's Adam Thielen. Legette got tossed from this game, little ejection for scrapping up in there. And then my guy Jalen Coker comes in, scores a touchdown from Bryce Young. Coker continued to play through the game. I think Coker is going to be on this roster, and I just film in year 1, Coker was a better player than Legette. We'll see how it continues to go. But Coker, from a dynasty perspective, is just somebody I want to bet on. Like, I want him on the end of my bench. I want to have some Jalen Coker in dynasty because I think he's a good player. But for this year, what we saw in the preseason is I think Bryce Young played well. I think this is a good offensive line. These receivers are interesting. But the guy here is Tedo McMillan, who I think is just a really good pick where he goes right now in Yahoo drafts. It's a little too low. He's somebody, again, I want to try to bump up the ranks along with Travis Hunter among these rookie wide receivers. Couple Broncos notes here to group together. RJ Harvey started this game with Bo Nix. He ran out as the starting running back. He played alongside Nix. I think it's going to be a committee between J.K. Dobbins and RJ Harvey, but you just want to bet on a guy like RJ Harvey, potential pass catching role here. So somebody that I like once we get to like running back 20, he's somebody I kind of want to start taking there. I don't mind J.K. Dobbins, but more of kind of the banger early down stuff. He's going to factor in here, but definitely RJ Harvey is the guy. Don't worry about it. And I mean, the preseason depth charts, he's RB5. Nobody cares about that. Marvin Mims Jr. Saw like a pretty traditional starting receiver workload from Nathan. Again, Mims played 16 of 19 snaps with the starters and left the game at the same time as Bo Nix. I posted a video about this over the weekend. Marvin Mims had like the weirdest reception perception profile of all time. One of the highest screen route rates, played 30.7% at sampled snaps in the backfield. That includes running back snaps and snaps when he's in motion as well. The previous high I'd ever had was Deebo Samuel at like 18% when he was truly playing some running back games. Okay. Like he was taking running back up the gut carries. So Marvin Mims is a pure gadget guy to me. Maybe he takes a step forward, but 44% success rate versus man coverage last year. That was like a first percentile mark. A lot of growth as a wide receiver that needs to take place here, but he is somebody who I think is like a fine late round pick. He's just a weird player. There's no question about that, but I'm not closing the door here on him maybe developing. He's certainly somebody that needs to get more complete in his game or he's going to lose work or not going to lose work, but like Devon Vele, Pat Bryant, those guys are going to be more intermediate weapons. But for now, I think Marvin Mims should be the second ranked Broncos receiver. Just goes a little too high in ADP. I never end up really getting him. Breece Hall rotated in this game with the New York Jets. Both Isaiah Davis and Braylon Allen mixed in with the first team offense. It wasn't like a clean split either. It wasn't, this guy's this role, this guy's it was just a pure rotation. I'm not going to overreact and drop Breece Hall in the rankings because of this. It's preseason. Same thing with like Rico Dowdle, who rotated in with Chuba Hubbard. I'm not going to freak out and like overanalyze week one of the preseason, but this is just something that's on my radar. I want to make you guys aware of because there's just been some weirdness with Breece Hall. Is he a trade candidate? Could he be the Cowboys running back one by week one? That would be pretty exciting. But that's like, fantasy land stuff. In fantasy football, you just got to be aware that Breece Hall is rotating a little bit, but I'm not going to overreact, but it's something to be on the radar. Will Shipley, running back 2 in Philadelphia. That's, again, late round flyer on him. He's clearly established as the running back 2. If something happens to Saquon Barkley, he's going to be somebody that everybody's rushing to on the waiver wire. So if you have deeper benches, if you got a stash spot, throw him on at the end of your bench there. He is going to be somebody, again, if Barkley ever got banged up, you'd want him on your team. All right, let's sicko stuff. Rapid fire this one. Definitely want to hit on these, but we're going to go quickly here. Number 1, my guy Torrey Horton, who I ranked as an early day 2 player, went in the 5th round because of an injury. You guys good at football. He is pushing, if not beating out Marquez Valdes-Scantling for an outside receiver spot in Seattle. Probably not on the redraft radar yet, but guy that I wanted dynasty. Took him in like the 4th round of some leagues, if not late 3rd round. Guy's going to be good. Okay, he is shining. Somebody that might get on the redraft radar at some point, but definitely be aware that Torrey Horton is good at football. He is legit. Blake Corum seems to have the early lead on Jarquez Hunter as the running back 2 in Los Angeles. Again, he's in that Will Shipley mode that if something happened to Kyron Williams, people would be interested in Blake Corum, but I'm not saying it's set in stone. Blake Corum is the running back 2, but right now seems to have the lead. Isaac Tesla is a Lions X receiver, okay? Go back and listen to some of my stuff about him, that I did around the draft if you want to learn more. But he's an intriguing prospect who is mostly a slot guy with a lot of tools. But he's starting to get some work and seems to be trending up, like as maybe not a starter, but somebody that's getting some work with the first team offense. And they do have an opening at X because they moved Jameson Williams around. Obviously, Amon-Ra St. Brown, primary slot. So again, this is the sicko freak section. You got to talk about Isaac Tesla. Let's also talk about Luke McCaffrey, who was playing outside for Washington while KJ Osborne was like more of a slot receiver for the Commanders. McCaffrey's just, look, they have an opening for another outside receiver because Debo's a pure gadget guy to me at this point. McLaurin obviously is holding out. Noah Brown is not an answer out there. So definitely somebody to keep in mind there is Luke McCaffrey, who is more of a developmental power slot type, but I thought flashed a little bit, beating zone coverage as a rookie. Keaton Mitchell really popped off the field for the Ravens in their preseason game. He, I think, needs to get back on the late round radar. Doesn't probably have any standalone value, but he would make for a really nice, hey, we get this guy 6 touches just to give Derrick Henry a breather. And if Derrick Henry ever missed time, I think Keaton Mitchell can actually play. Ray Garvin has talked about this. He talked about this on our sleeper show, but Dante Thornton, 4th round pick of the Raiders, big size, speed. I mean, he runs and looks like Calvin Johnson. He's not Calvin Johnson, but he is the starting X receiver for the Las Vegas Raiders. Just probably best ball only, real deep guy for redraft, but it does at least give us some clarity on the Raiders receiver room. Jack Besh, their second round pick, is rotating in with guys like Trey Tucker and Jacoby Myers, but somebody that might be more like a year 2 guy in Dynasty, which is totally fine. Last note, and this is more just pure qualitative, young quarterbacks. I thought Shedeur Sanders, J.J. McCarthy, and Jackson Dart all played pretty well in the preseason, okay? To varying degrees. McCarthy doesn't have the stats that Shedeur or Dart did because he obviously is, he's going to start week 1. He's going to start the whole season, but I thought he handled the preseason pretty well. He also handled the preseason pretty well last year, so it's not going to cause me to move anything in rankings on any Vikings guys, but just good to see him checking some boxes, not going out there and being like, oh, completely overwhelmed in the preseason or something like that. So feel pretty good about where we're at with J.J. McCarthy. Jackson Dart, I got to say, again, I had this up on the screen because in the salary cap draft, because it takes forever. There's a lot of just waiting around for people to bid on players that I don't really want on my team anyways. So, and I save my $1 flyers, whatever. I'm looking at Jackson Dart, like standing in the pocket under pressure, like just down the barrel and ripping it down the field. That's good to see. Russell Wilson is a guy that I'm not saying I'm warming to Russ, but I do think he fits well with Malik Neighbors. Russell Wilson last year, according to Fantasy Points data, led all quarterbacks that took over 100 dropbacks with 72.9 yards per game on go routes and post routes. That's about all Russell Wilson can do at this point. Do that and then check the football down, but he can rip that thing to Neighbors down the field. But Dart looking good in the preseason. If he continues that momentum, and it's a tough early season schedule for the Giants, maybe we see him sooner than later. And lastly, we saw a ton of Shedeur Sanders. Look, the big shows are going to break this down, like it's the biggest story ever. I was just glad to see Shedeur play well. The Browns might as well get him some work with the first team. What do they have to lose? I mean, you got to prepare Joe Flacco to start the season, but just maybe give him some looks here because Kenny Pickett and Dylan Gabriel are still banged up. They signed Tyler Huntley, of course, but Shedeur at least handled himself really well. It's just I don't want to spend too much time like deeply breaking down preseason film of the fourth quarterback right now for what might be the worst offense in the league. But good to see that for him as he continues to try to push to not just make the roster, but maybe get some starts at some point this year. It was good to see him play well. That's about all I got. It wasn't anything crazy, but there were some good moments where he was under pressure, made good decisions, and showed the ability to get out the pocket and just pick up positive yards for his team. So good for Shedeur Sanders, who I honestly feel bad for at times. I mean, just such a crazy media sensation. You got shows talking about is he being set up to fail by getting action in the preseason? No, he's being set up to show he can play football, which is what he did. So good for Shedeur Sanders, but of course doesn't really matter in fantasy football this year.